Have you ever heard of Mary Ann Hall, Washington, D.C.'s most notorious madam? Yeah, that's right, is that a female pimp? She ran one of the most successful brothels in D.C. for over 30 years. Before we go any further, my name's Dylan. I make videos about D.C. area history that you've never heard of. If you like that kind of stuff? Go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Not much is known about Mary Ann's private life. We know that she was born in D.C., one of 9 children. At one point, she was a prostitute herself, but managed to save up enough money to buy a lot in what was then just a swampy area along the canal. The canal is now about where Constitution Avenue. She bought the lot in 1839 and quickly built a house starting a business with 6 women. In 1840, about 23,000 people lived in D.C., which doubled by 1850, and by the 1860s was over 60,000 people. With the increase in population came overcrowding, came saloons, gambling houses, opium dens, and brothels. But Mary Ann wasn't just running any place. Hers was known for being elegant and catering to rather elite clientele. There's no official record of clientele, but evidence suggests it was mainly people of wealth and influence. It's believed by the 1860s that there were 17 women that worked out of the house, and it had up to 25 rooms, many of which were decorated, oil paintings, expensive European carpets. Guests were fed high-priced cuts of meat, as well as all sorts of exotic fruits and nuts, which were really hard to come by at the time. Also, tons and tons of French champagne. The house was raided in 1864, and Mary Ann was found guilty of, and I quote, keeping a bawdy house, and was fined $2,000, about $39,000 today. But that didn't stop. As she approached her late 50s, she spent more of her time in her home in what was then Alexandria County, which we will get back to that in a bit. She left the day-to-day operations to her sister. As the area changed, she eventually shut down the business and rented out part of the property to Washington Dispensary for Women and Children, which was primarily a women's health clinic. According to the archaeological report, it was run by 2 female doctors, and the clinic was funded with private donations and money from D.C. Commissioner's appropriation for the relief of the poor. When Mary Ann died, her obituary read, "Departed this life 2 a.m. Friday, January 29th, 1886. Mary A. Hall, long resident of Washington, with integrity, an unquestioned heart, even open to appeals of distress, a charity that was boundless. She is gone, but her memory will be kept green by many who knew her sterling worth. At the time of her death, she was worth about $87,000, which today is about $2.8 million, which is pretty impressive. Mary Ann, her sister, and their mother are buried in D.C.'s Congressional Cemetery. On her grave is an inscription that reads, "Truth was her motto, her creed, charity for all. Dawn is coming." People had wondered where the site of the brothel was for years, but it was officially confirmed in 1997 during the excavation of the building of the National Museum of the American Indian. While digging, hundreds of champagne corks were found, as well as shards of expensive porcelain and bones from high-end cuts of meats, and tons of women's fashion items. Earlier, I mentioned her Virginia home. Marymount University's main house was granted to it by Rear Admiral Presley Marion Rixey, a Surgeon General for the Navy and personal physician to 2 U.S. presidents. However, where that house now stands was once the home of Mary Ann Hall, D.C.'s most successful madam.